Hey there, happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for making the time to watch this replay. It is the last day of July, if you can believe it. And what that means is we are wrapping up the theme this month, which has been all about content creation and content strategy. I'm going to recap for you the highlights of the topics that we've chatted about this month, but the whole purpose of today's Facebook Live is to answer your questions. Whether you had questions about something that I chatted about this month and you want me to go a little bit deeper, or it made you think of an idea, a question that you had that I didn't talk about at all. If you have submitted questions to me all throughout the month that I haven't talked about yet, today's the day that I'm going to answer them. And if you're joining me live, please drop your questions in the comments and I'm going to answer them for you. So the whole purpose today is Q&A. Hey, Cheryl, thank you so much for joining me live. It's so great to have you here. Now, before I jump in, for those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Carrie Price. I'm a brand messaging coach, helping ambitious service-based business owners find and own the words to stand out, be heard, and make your message roar. Hey, Kimberly, so great to have you here this morning. Thank you so much for joining me live. All right, if you guys have any questions about content creation or content strategy, whether I've already talked about it this month or not, today is for you. So drop those questions in the comments. Before I start addressing those questions though, let me just recap for you at a very high level the topics that we've been chatting about all month long. And I've provided the links to all the replays for each of these topics in the comments below. So if you, like I said, I'm going to give you a high-level recap, and if you want to know more about any of them, you can go watch those replays. And if you're watching the replay of this video and have thought of any additional questions that you have, it's not too late. Go ahead and drop those in the comments and I will come back and respond to that for you. Or if I've addressed it in another video, I'll make sure to let you know that too. Hey, Helen, so great to see you. Thank you for joining me live today. So let's recap the topics that I've been talking about all month long. We started the month off by demystifying content creation. There's this word that probably stresses some of you out, or maybe it did before this month, about content creation and what that means. Well, I wanted to take away like the big overwhelming scariness of that term. Really? It's about sharing your message. Content is your way of getting your message out there. It's what you use in your marketing, right? Marketing is what controls and shapes your brand, and your brand is your reputation as it's perceived in the mind of the market. Content creation is your message. It's sharing your message in a variety of different ways. In week 2, we talked about creating a content strategy, which again, probably stresses some of you out, hopefully not as much anymore. Really, all that is about having a plan. When we create content, when we're wanting to share a message, we want to make sure we're doing that with purpose. Yes, there is time to be spontaneous and throw out content or put out content that we feel inspired to create on any given day. But it can be simplified if you have a plan about where you want to show up, knowing who it is you're trying to speak to, what is it you want them to know, and positioning yourself as an expert. So creating a content strategy is all about making a plan. And we broke that down a little bit and I gave you some considerations in the week 2 Facebook Live. In week 3, we talked about the types of content and how to choose the right one for you. You cannot create all the content, all the places, everywhere. I mean, we would be spending all of our time creating videos, writing blog posts, repurposing, editing, all of that, right? So I broke down for you some considerations to be thinking about in choosing the type of content that you want to produce. And really it comes down to 2 key questions. What kind of content do you enjoy creating that you will be able to do it consistently, which allows you to show up reliably as the expert that you are? And remember, your content plan, your content strategy does not mean you're having to put out 5 pieces of content every day. We've been talking all month long about how to simplify it. It can be effective with much less content. But think about what you're going to like to produce so that you'll keep it up. But maybe more importantly, or at least just as importantly, it's important to know what your ideal client prefers to consume. So if you love doing hour-long Facebook Lives and your audience does not enjoy watching hour-long Facebook Lives, then you might at least want to be looking at repurposing that Facebook Live into formats that your audience is going to want to consume, right? There's pros and cons to all the different types of content. I covered that in week 3, so you can go back and watch that if you would like a little bit more detail around that. And then last week, I talked about how to have a never-ending source of content ideas. And I talked about this a couple times throughout the month. And it's really about focusing on documenting and not creating. And that's what Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, or what a lot of people refer to him as Gary V. It's about taking things that are happening already to you in your everyday life, whether it's work you're doing with your clients, things that you are experiencing in your own life, TV shows you're watching, books you're reading, whatever that is, and finding the inspiration from that. Kind of anything that you would normally have written in your diary when you were a kid and you just sort of were talking about how you were feeling and what was happening to you, you could turn any of those into compelling, valuable content sharing your message. And in fact, so last week, I encouraged you to jump into my free group, The Messaging Den, and give me any topics to watch me creating content. Now, I'll admit, I only got through a few of those before the week got away from me between client calls and other things that I needed to do. But I'm going to go back into the group today and I'm going to finish that exercise. And if you still want to challenge me with a topic and watch me turn that into a valuable messaging related piece of content, come on into the Messaging Den. I'll be working on that today. And so here we are. That was a lot of stuff to talk about with content creation and content strategy. Oh, and I would be remiss if I did not remind you that inside the Messaging Den, I also had content strategist Linda Eno come in and share her tips for how to turn a single piece of content into 20, 30, 50 pieces or more. So if you want to learn how to get the maximum amount of repurposing possible on any given piece of content to really help you simplify your own content strategy, I invite you to come into the Messaging Den and check that out. All right. Ooh, so much that has already gone on this month. And I know there are still questions. So I have collected a few of the questions that maybe we talked about along the way this month, but I wanted to highlight and make sure I addressed specifically here in the Q&A, as well as all of your questions here live. Helen, thank you so much. Helen says that session with Linda Eno was amazing. Yeah, she's pretty fantastic. She broke it down so simply. And I learned so much from her as well. So yeah, if you haven't seen that, come into the Messaging Den and check that out. It was so good. Okay, I am going to start with Cheryl's question, who is here with me live, and let's just jump right in. All right, so Cheryl asks, what are your thoughts on being a little controversial in your content? I've seen 2 schools of thought. Generating some buzz is a good thing, even if people disagree, or that it's better to make sure you never offend anyone, which seems impossible, but maybe it's worth trying. What do you think? Cheryl, this is an excellent question. And you're absolutely right. 2 totally different schools of thought. And there's no right or wrong answer, but I'm going to share with you my point of view on it. Your goal with your message and all the content that you put out there is to attract your ideal clients, the people that are going to be the dreamiest clients that you want to work with, and let everybody else move along, right? You cannot serve everybody, even if you wanted to, right? There's probably millions of people on the planet who have a problem that you could solve for them. So the point and the goal of your message is to help those people sort of weed themselves out, to be the expert for a specific group of people, your dreamiest clients, right? So what does that mean and what does that look like, particularly as it comes to like the repelling everybody else side of that and letting people move along? What I encourage all of my clients to do, and to be honest, it's one of the main reasons I don't develop messaging for clients anymore, but instead I teach you my process and guide you through my process to create your messaging foundation. It's because I want it to be the most authentic message that you could put out there. I'm going to help you frame it, finding the words that you can own in your market, right? So you're one of a kind and totally relatable. But especially for solopreneurs and small business owners, it's imperative that it's authentically you. You're the one that is showing up every day representing your business, representing your brand. Whether you're you have a business name or you're out under your own name, right? You become the face and the voice of your brand. So if you are a personality that's like, look, I'm a straight shooter, I'm going to tell you like it is. And if that offends some of you, okay, move along. There's somebody else for you. Then absolutely be authentic with that and show up that way. Some people are very controversial in their message, and what happens is it completely polarizes the audience, right? They get super raving fans who are like, oh my gosh, you're speaking the truth, and I'm glad somebody was willing to say what I was thinking. And then you're going to have the camp that's like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, and they're completely turned off. And there's nothing wrong with that if that is part of your brand personality, how you want to be perceived, and what it is you want to communicate, right? So on the flip side of that, I'm not necessarily an opponent of trying to make everybody happy, because one, your message gets really boring and vanilla when you try and appeal to everybody. But there is the camp of, if your brand personality is one of showing up where you're professional and approachable and friendly and inclusive, and if these are characteristics of your brand that you want to be known for and you want people to resonate with, then your message should be in alignment with that. And you probably don't say things that are too polarizing. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take a stand for what you believe in, but it might mean there are things that you don't talk about if they're not related to your business. No right or wrong answer. It really comes down to how you want to be perceived, because remember, brand is a perception as it's perceived in the mind of the market. So whatever you are putting out there, it's just shaping what people think about you. Now, there is also the camp of people that says, you know, whatever people think about you, that's none of your business, right? Like they're going to think what they think about you, and there will always be trolls. There will always be those people that will glom onto anything and find any reason to complain. Those are not your people. So be thinking about who it is that you want to attract and what is it they're going to be drawn to. One of the things I help my clients develop is their value proposition. What's going to help them stand out in the market, and it's what they value, which is what your clients value, because like attracts like. So, you know, you're a straight shooter. You're going to tell it like it is. You don't care if you piss anybody off, and that's the people that you attract also believe those things. Put yourself out there in that way. That's going to be the most authentic you, right? I don't want you to create anything that feels disingenuous, because then when people actually work with you, you can't sustain it. They're like, whoa, you were like this calm, positive, optimistic, feel-good person in your marketing, and then I get to work with you and you're kind of a hard ass, and that's not really what I wanted, right? People need to know what they're getting, and that's going to come through in your message and how you share your content. Does that answer that for you, Cheryl? Okay, you said it's super helpful. Awesome. I'm so glad. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. There's some people, you know, here's an interesting story. So an entrepreneurial friend of mine recently shared, last year she worked with a business coach who told her like to strip out all the swearing in her message, to stop being so confrontational, to be more positive, and that's going to attract people. And her business kind of flatlined a little bit. And then she's like, screw that. And she just became herself. She's like, I'm going to tell you like it is, and this is who I am, and like me or don't. But if you want to work with me, this is what you're getting. And her business has been doing well. So if that's not you, don't pretend to be that person. But what that proved was you have to show up in your most authentic way. So again, when I'm working with my clients to help them with their messaging, it's about finding like one of a kind words and helping to position you, but all within being what is truly authentically you. You can't sustain it otherwise. And then you break trust when people find out that that's not who you are. Cheryl says, Paul Coelho, what other people think of you is none of your business. But that directly contradicts Marty Neumeier. A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. Hard to reconcile those two. Yeah, Cheryl, it's absolutely true. And I define brands very similarly to Marty. Your brand is your reputation as it's perceived in the mind of the market. It really is what people think of you. It's our job as marketers. And if you're in business for yourself, you are also a marketer. But it's our job to shape and control as much as we can what that perception is. And so that's why it's so important to really make sure you've got a firm understanding in your messaging foundation, that is rock solid. It is everything from your personality to your values, to your vocabulary, to your brand position, your story, everything that you want people to know. That is what brand messaging is. And all of that is what shapes and controls people's perception to the best of your ability. Everyone is also seeing and consuming everything through their own filter of their experience. So we do the best that we can. For the people who are just not going to resonate with and hate that, that is absolutely beyond our control. And we have to learn to let that go. Doesn't mean it's easy, doesn't mean it feels good. But when we are focused on our ideal client, our dreamiest client, and what they need to hear from us, that's what's going to help attract them and let everybody else move along, right? Yeah, Cheryl says I have his book on my shelf, Zag. Yeah, that's Zag in the Stack. Yep. Absolutely. That's so funny you can see that. I also have the brand gap up there, which is also his. But yeah, it's so important. It's so funny. No one ever recognizes the books. Of course you would, Cheryl. Awesome. Okay. What other questions do you guys have? And while you're thinking about them and dropping those in the comments, I am going to go through some comments that were submitted to me in advance, either via email or inside my group, The Messaging Den, or that I haven't addressed them so far along in this month. Oh, Cheryl says she's got that book in front of her on her as well, right on her desk, and that's how she recognized it. Cheryl, you're very welcome. I'm so glad that was helpful. Okay, by the way, if you are watching this from the Messaging Den, because I have shared this into the group, jump out here on the page so I can actually see your comments and answer them live for you. I'm going to go through some questions that were submitted in advance. I'll take a look in the group too. But if you can come over here and ask your questions here on my page, that'll make sure I can see them and I can highlight you and we can have a chat. Okay. So one of the questions that somebody is still struggling with a little bit, and you guys, I get it, content and marketing in general takes a lot of time, and we're all trying just to serve our clients, right? We want to do the work, but we have to be consistently, reliably marketing in order for people to know about us and come find us so that we can turn them into clients and get to serve them, right? So one of the questions was, what tips do you have about staying consistent? Now, for those of you who don't know what Make Your Message Roar stands for, it's about having a message that is relatable, one of a kind, actionable, and reliable. And that last R is really important. It is about consistently, reliably showing up for your audience. My best tip for you on how to show up consistently is to don't overcommit. I see so many people who get all gung-ho about something and I'm going to go live every day for 30 days or every day forever, or I'm going to blog 3 times a week, or I'm going to be in 10 Facebook groups 3 times a day. And we get really excited about a new marketing technique and we want to throw everything in it and we want to show up like gangbusters. But you're lucky if you can sustain that for even just a couple weeks. So my best tip for you is to slowly build up. If your message is strong, if it's relatable to your ideal client, if it's one of a kind and stands out like everybody else, stands out from everybody else, then you don't need a ton of it because every piece is going to be really, really impactful for you. So let's say you want to start with Facebook Lives. I don't recommend that you start by going live every day because people will start to rely on that. And then one day you'll stop and they'll think, oh, well, she doesn't do Facebook Lives anymore. And maybe you like burned out completely. So you go from doing that every day to like once a month or kind of sporadically. I would rather you start with one Facebook Live a month or two Facebook Lives a month. Or be bold and do it once a week. And it doesn't have to be long. But whatever you decide, make sure you can sustain that and be consistent so that people can rely on that. I've been going live every week on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Here on my page, I need to go back and look at this because I talk about this a lot, maybe about a year here on my page. But I've been going live every week. It used to be inside my group for a year and a half, almost 2 years. So a year and 9 months probably. So whatever it is, now everyone knows they can rely on me for a messaging mini class every single week. Now it's on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Eastern right here on my page, right? Well, if I decided I wanted to build on that, I know I can consistently do every Tuesday, right? Now I've got my systems in place. I've got my plan in place for prepping that content, being able to promote it, doing it. We're working on the repurposing part of that. I know I've got that down. So now if I want to add, let's say another Facebook Live on Fridays, well, I'm going to start that and make sure I can sustain it before I go 3 days a week or whatever, right? So build up, make sure you can sustain it. Somebody asked me yesterday, have I really never missed a Tuesday since I started doing this? And I said no. And then I said, well, wait, actually, I didn't go live on Christmas Day. I think Christmas Day was a Tuesday. But other than that, whether I was on vacation, away from my home, doesn't matter. I would go live every Tuesday and people can learn to rely on that. Same thing if you're choosing email marketing, right? Don't email every day or even once a week if you can't sustain it and then you go 3 months without being in contact with somebody. It's more important that you're reliable with whatever your frequency is than to like be really, really active and then go radio silent because then people are thinking, did they go out of business? Should not do that anymore, right? So it's important to be consistent. Hey, Linda, so great to see you. We were totally promoting you earlier in the live about the amazing guest expert session that you did inside the messaging den earlier this month. So if you guys missed it, jump inside the messaging den so you can see Linda's amazing training on repurposing your content. All right, another question that was submitted to me in advance. I'd love to hear your thoughts about creating content specifically for a certain platform versus creating content that directs to your main source of content, like a blog or a YouTube channel. And we talked about this a little bit on the content strategy, the plan week, and how to create your content strategy. It's all about thinking about what your goal is. What is it you want people to do? And if you've got tons of great content on a blog or on YouTube, by all means, drive traffic to it. Linda talks about how to take like one Facebook Live, and I think she can repurpose it into 30 to 50 pieces of content from one Facebook Live. And depending, and like actually, if you take her approach, you could probably exponentially do even more. But let's say you write a blog post and you're promoting that and putting that out there, and you might put snippets of it out there and break it up into individual social media posts, but you've got so much more juicy content. And if somebody is reading something and they're interested, why not drive them back to the source where they can get more information? And by the way, once they're on the blog, they're going to see all the other blog posts you have. Or once they're on your YouTube channel, they might sit and binge watch a bunch of your videos. So if you have your content centralized, by all means, drive people there and let that content work for you. You're putting out content if it's strategic, if it is something that you know is going to appeal to your ideal client, that once they find it, they're going to want more of it. So why not make that easier for them to find? Okay. Another question that was submitted, Oh, and this is such a good one because I can absolutely relate to this. How to kill the perfectionist inside that is terrified of writing anything because it won't be good enough. Pretty much every reason that I gave in my first talk, which was the first one this week or this month, and why it's hard to come up with content applies to me. So I would love to hear anything that could help me in defining my message. So the reason why content creation feels hard for a lot of people, and Linda talks about this too, we feel like we don't have enough time. We feel like we don't have enough ideas, right? And we've talked about that all month long, giving you tons of strategies to do that. But I also shared with you that when you have a really solid understanding of your message and all aspects of that, right? Your message is everything that you want and need to communicate, from your personality, really being clear about your ideal client, more than just your ideal client avatar. What they need to hear from you, your personality, your brand vocabulary, your brand position, the thing that you want to be remembered for, the words you truly want to own in your market, and your brand story, which is your client's experience. Like, you've got to get clear on all of that. When you have that, yeah, your content still might not be perfect, but it's all filtered through that lens. Imagine that having that clear foundation in your message is like seeing the world through those glasses. Content creation becomes so much easier. One of my clients said to me, she says, "Dang it, Carrie, I can't do anything without seeing it through the lens of my message. And I want to write about everything as content. Like, this can happen." So when you're overflowing with content ideas, put stuff out there, right? You know how to talk to your ideal client. You know the words that you're going to use. You know the feeling you want them to have. You know the values that you want to represent and that's going to attract your ideal clients. And your content, even if it's not perfect, is going to be pretty darn good. Right? Now, if you don't have an understanding of all that, you're probably agonizing over your content and worrying about everything that you're talking about. But own your area of expertise, get really clear on the message that you need to communicate, and then go put it out there. There's going to be some pieces of content, written video, posts, blogs, whatever, that don't land. Okay. So learn from that and put out something different. Everything that we do in our business, especially around marketing, it's a little bit of experimentation, right? We think this is what our ideal clients want to hear. We put stuff out there. If we get feedback that reinforces that, we're like, awesome, on the right track. If we put stuff out there and it causes some questions or nobody engages, it makes us wonder, okay, so maybe that's not something that interests them. But also don't forget that not everybody sees every piece of content that we put out there. Just put it out there. Just make sure that everything you're doing is in alignment with your message, that it's what you want to be known for. Some of it's going to hit and some of it's not. And learn to let go of the perfectionism. Totally a recovering perfectionist. So I absolutely understand that. But, when you think about your clients first and what they need to hear from you, sometimes I don't care. I fumble over my words all the time on these Facebook lives, right? I don't say exactly what, everything that I mean to say, but if I can communicate even 75% of the message that I'm attempting for my ideal clients to hear from me, then I'm doing my job. All right. Now, last question that was submitted in advance that I saw, and if you have additional questions, drop those in the comments. It's not too late. But the last question was around, how do you get the right eyeballs and the right interaction on your blog? And I'm just going to extend that question on any of your content, right? How do you get more of your ideal clients seeing your stuff? Great question, right? Because here we are talking about creating content, putting it out there, and ultimately, if we just put it out there and no one sees it, it's not doing us any good. So this again comes down to getting really clear on understanding who it is that you are trying to attract, who it is that you want to work with, your dreamiest clients, and understanding all the aspects that matter. I mentioned earlier, it's more than the ideal client avatar. So many people talk about that. That's mostly demographic information. Doesn't tell you how to talk to them. You need to get really clear about what's going to motivate those ideal clients to want to read your stuff. You want to make sure that you are grabbing their attention with headlines or images. And, as people read the first one or two sentences of whatever you're putting out there, it needs to make them think in their minds, yep, she's talking to me because I'm struggling with that problem, or I really want that result. People are motivated by one of two things. It's psychology: avoidance of pain, struggle, hardship, right? Or the pursuit of pleasure, enjoyment, that positive benefit. Speak to those things. And you want to make sure that while your message is one of a kind and you talking about what it is you do and how you help people, you have to use your ideal client's language. You have to remove the jargon that so many people I see think helps them seem smarter. They think it's going to position them as an expert, but really you've got to use the language that your ideal clients understand, right? So you want to get people to read your blog post. Is your headline asking them a question that they're asking themselves and they want an answer to? Is it drawing the attention to the pain that they are tired of struggling with? Is it something that they want and need to hear? Or is it what you are trying to talk to them about? And I did a whole Facebook Live on this, probably back in the spring, about the difference between talking to your ideal clients and talking at your ideal clients. Most people start out talking at their ideal clients. My goal is to help you learn how to talk to them. And when you do that, it starts the conversation and you show up where your ideal client's hanging out, then you're going to start seeing more of that interaction because you're speaking to them in a way that they're thinking, oh my gosh, she really understands me. Oh my gosh, I really wish that someone would help me solve that problem. Now I'm ready to learn more, right? We got to meet people where they are and then move them along to the information that's going to help them make a decision. So those were the really amazing questions that were asked, and I'm so glad I had an opportunity to break down even further today. And I'm going to hang out for just a little bit because I know there's a delay. If you are still on with me live and you have any questions, now's your time to drop those in the comments if you'd like to hear me answer them. But if you're watching the replay, it's still not too late. Go ahead and drop those questions in the comments below, and I'll come back and share my thoughts with you. And if I've talked about that before in another Facebook Live, or, I can point you to that, or maybe I'll queue it up for a future Facebook Live content topic. Okay, I'm just going to jump on over into my group and just make sure if anybody is watching me from over there that I am not missing your comments. If you are, come jump on over to the page so that I can see your questions live. Hey, Monica, so good to see you here. Thank you for joining me today. Monica asks, and I'll even show it. What are you using for the video to pop up the comments? I'm using Ecamm Live, which is only for Mac, but if you have a Mac, I highly recommend it. If you're on a PC, you'll need to use a third-party tool like BeLive TV or OBS to get the same effect. But that's actually a really great question because it's a segue for me to share with you what next month's topic is going to be. So I started this back in June. We started with a monthly theme so I could dive in deeper on particular topics over the course of many weeks. And we did email marketing in June. All of July was on content creation and content strategy. And by popular demand and many requests, I'm going to be devoting the whole month of August to Facebook Live and helping you make your Facebook Lives roar. Because if you're not already using it, I want to encourage you and help you get comfortable doing it. And if you are already using it, I want to help you level that up. I want you to use it as the platform to help you really get your message heard. We're going to be breaking down things to think about before going live, while you're on your live, and after the live, which is where I see a lot of people fall down. And so I'm breaking all that down. I'll be doing a behind the scenes Facebook Live inside the messaging den. I've had many requests and questions asking me what tools and technology I use in addition to Ecamm Live. So I'm going to be doing a Facebook Live behind the scenes inside the messaging den. I'm going to show you my video studio setup, but I'm also going to show you all the different technology I've used along the way because it can start very inexpensively. And even my current setup is less than a couple $100. So I'm going to share, you're going to get to see everything like behind the camera. So the whole month of August is going to be devoted to Facebook Live. Okay, Monica says, awesome. I'm glad that that sounds good for you. So if you have questions about Facebook Live, head into the messaging den. You can go to themessagingden.com or search for that right here on Facebook. Pop into the messaging den. Later this week, I will have a pinned post where I'll be collecting all your questions about Facebook Live to make sure that I address them over the course of the 4 weeks that we have in August. And if you're looking for a safe place to practice some of these techniques, you can go live anytime inside the messaging den. You can see that in my group description. I ask that you keep it under 10 minutes. Anytime you want. But if you'd like to be featured as a guest expert, like I had Linda last month, we actually have 4 guest experts coming up in August. I'm already booked out in August with some great guest experts for you. But if you'd like to be featured as a guest expert, we'll promote you. You'll have about a half hour to share your brilliance with the group. Let me know. You can go to carrieprice.com/feature me and submit to be one of our featured guest experts. But come into the group. All month long, I'll be encouraging you even more than normal to go live. I'll give you some extra prompts so that you don't even have to think about what to talk about. Just get through the logistics, so the tactical part of going live, and because I want you to get really comfortable with it. It's been a game changer for me, but I'm going to tell you right now, I did not always love video. 2 years ago, I was that person that said, I'll never get on video. I don't want to have, like, the benefit of working from home is I don't want to have to do hair and makeup every day, and I don't know what to say, and I'm not going to show up perfect, and what if I stumble, and what if I need notes? And I had more excuses than you can imagine. And now, like, I could go live every day if I wanted to. I really, really love it. It's such a great way for your people to connect with you and get to know you. We're going to be talking about that all month long. So in the meantime, we're wrapping up content creation and content strategy. I hope you have enjoyed this month and that you like these monthly themes. If you have any other ideas beyond Facebook Lives, let me know and I'll cue that up for a future month because we're diving in deeper on all of these topics. Oh, Linda says, and you're amazing at it. Thank you, Linda. That came with a ton of practice. You guys can go back and look at some of my early Facebook Lives. Very different than my Facebook Lives today. And that's okay. That's the great thing about it is you can put yourself out there just as you are. And trust me, people are going to be drawn to that. All right. That's it for this week. In the meantime, please don't settle for sounding like anybody else. Make sure you stand out. You get heard. Make your message roar. Have a wonderful week and I will see you next time. Bye for now.